smoking, always stoking the fire. Adrenaline is overloading, hit the mat like a fighter. They never let up, never throwing, giving to their desires. No, they keep working on their focus.
And Happy New Year, fight fans, combat sport fans. It's Keep It in the Ring, back with you here. Stream Punk Media presents Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. There's my colleague and former pro fighter, very versed in the sport, colleague of mine as well, Richard Pierson. Richard, Happy New Year and welcome in, my friend.
Same to you, brother. Good holidays.
How was your holidays? Good?
Yeah, holidays is good. Happy to make it to another year.
Yeah, there you go. And also the fact that you were a fighter, so you could handle the holiday season better than me or many others. Fighters are strong.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a tough time of the year. It's a lot you got to deal with. During my fighting days, if you didn't get a fight, it was really stressful because you don't know if you're going to be able to afford to pay rent and get the kids presents. It's a lot.
Got it. So, Rich, tell the folks out there, supporters, followers of us, new people coming in tonight, as well as yours, a little briefly about yourself and your boxing career, and then we'll get on with the show. We have an hour. We'll talk about this week and in the weeks to come.
Oh, well, fighter from Madison, New Jersey. Didn't know much about the sport. Never did anything with sports as a young man. Accidentally got into boxing around the age of 20. Was thrown inside of a boxing ring and won the Golden Gloves. Next thing I know, I was a professional fighter. Didn't know what that meant either. I was just out there fighting and, became, I guess you can say I'm the greatest B-side fighter of all time. Instead of me being defeated in all my fights, I won a few.
Yeah, you won a few, and you also very involved in the sport. You've been in the gym, also as a trainer, an advisor, and now you're with me. You do sometime you're at ringside with me doing commentary on some boxing promotions that are streamed live to the fans, and you're good. And that's why I said, you know what, I gotta bring you on, and here you are. And let's get into it right away. Fans, by the way, my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso, like, comment, do subscribe. And also Stream Punk Media, do as well. The World of Combat Sports, I'm going to tell you now, we're going to do some MMA here on the show as well. Not this week, but in the weeks to come, leading up to String Punk Media presentation that I'm involved with, Danger Zone, MAC Promotions up in Newburgh, New York. February 2nd is the date up in Newburgh, New York at the Armory, and that's going to be the MMA show, Danger Zone 2, that I'm proudly involved with. And Richard Pierson will be up there as well. I'm at Ring 786.
Yes, I will.
That's Twitter, formerly and now known as X, as you know. Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso as well. Drop me a line, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Of course, again, like, subscribe, and comment here about the show. All right, Rich, let's look briefly at 2023, year that passed in boxing, which in my opinion was strong because fight fans got to see fights they wanted to see. The only disappointment, I believe, was some fights still in the balance, and we'll talk about that, especially the heavyweight division, but we're going to see that coming up in the new year with Usyk and Tyson Fury to unify the heavyweight belts. A lot of the titles, not a lot, but, pretty much unified. We saw its 4-division belt era, the 4-belt era in this era where titles were unified, kind of. And we lost Showtime Championship Boxing, which was a major blow, I believe, to the sport. Next HBO going, 7-8 years later, no more Showtime, 32 years or more of great championship fights, and we wish all the people at Showtime all the best in their future endeavors. Great people behind the scenes there on the broadcast and behind it, and I wish them well. And that, to me, Rich, losing Showtime shows where the sport is going in the industry for sure. It's all about streaming with the Zone leading the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's we're in a new era now. When I was coming up, I'm one of 24 kids. All of my older brothers, they was into sports. from football to boxing, soccer. They was into all of it. And I mean, used to have the fights on CBS, you had it on regular television, and the times change and they just constantly finding new ways to just get it out there. And with Showtime, networks like Showtime or HBO, I believe they didn't think it was going to evolve into something else. And now with all the streaming networks, I mean, you got you know how it is, the promoters make deals with networks. They look for the best, the
Yeah.
coupon.
And
And
they
that's what
are. They know where the money is going. Also, the fight game is now shifted to Saudi Arabia too, because
yes.
the princes over there and the kings are putting a lot of money in the promoters' pockets. They want him there. And in fact, that's
Mhm.
where Fury and Usyk will have the next encounter in February as one of the early season New Year highlight fights coming up. It's a shame though, because fight fans can't see fights on free TV no more as part of their cable subscriptions and have to subscribe to another streaming service. Again, the Zone leading the pack. And with the exception of ESPN and the Top Rank venture that continues to do well, ESPN Plus is also carrying this stuff, but you can still see Top Rank ESPN Productions on your cable bill, on your cable subscription. And that's the only outlet you got unless you stream a fight or buy pay-per-view. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's we most fighters, such as myself, we don't find out till later on in life that boxing, as much as we love it, is business first. And you got the, again, the promoters who's going to go with the business route. They're not going to go to where they're not going to get the best bang for their buck.
Exactly.
They're just
I
not.
agree. You saw Showtime over the years produce many champions through their Showbox series and then Showtime Championship Boxing and a lot of name fighters coming out of Showtime. And a lot of them have to find new home because PBC is a part of that, though they do have the Amazon Prime deal, and they're going to come up with March. They're going to debut a pay-per-view that's supposed to have maybe Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney. Someone big is going to debut on their Amazon Prime, but you have to pay for it. You have to pay for Amazon Prime to catch the fighters that are part of the PBC right now, and that's going to be the new major outlet for them, Rich.
Yeah, and the same thing with these networks. I mean, you think about it. I mean, before I ever got into the sport, like I said, my brothers and my uncles were always just watching sports. At one time, we didn't have cable in the house, but they had boxing matches on television. It was free at that time, I guess, when I was a kid. Then a pay-per-view came in. I remember them ordering fights for the Mike Tyson and the Lennox Lewis fights and all of that. Now you have to remember, we're not seeing a lot of the fights that we want to see in this day and age now, because why? Fighters are signed to networks. It's not just about the belts. You got fighters signed to networks that don't work with each other. That's why it took us years to ever see Mike Tyson even fight Lennox Lewis, Mayweather versus Pacquiao.
Right.
It's network.
Some of them become pay-per-view megastars. Of course, Canelo Alvarez, and even we saw it this year, and we're going to go over it now. Excuse me, because 2023, to me, was a good year for the sport. I mean, again, let's look at the lightweight division and the 140 junior welterweights at 140, which now has become the main division in the sport to me. Let's look at this guy first, Devin Haney. Let's talk about Devin Haney, 25 years old. Is he 25? I believe he is, right?
Yeah,
I have to double check his age. Yeah. But he's in the prime of his career right now. Many consider him, next to Terence Crawford, as number one, as the top pound for pound fighter. Now, I've never go pound for pound. I never believed in that. But many look at Haney being that superstar, and indeed he is. He outmanned Regis Prograis and took Prograis' WBA title and became I believe a 3-division champion. Now, Devin Haney has a long future still ahead. Rich, what do you think about him?
I don't have much besides, his obedience to his father. I really don't have much more to give him, on that level. I think he's a really big kid. I think he has the money behind him to suck down the weight and rehydrate properly where he gets in the ring as a middleweight and he fight lightweights. I see the kid is walking to the ring at least 160, 65 pounds.
Right, right. And of course, he said that he might want to go to 147 because he can handle that weight
Of
and
course he can handle the
start to
weight.
make more history in the sport.
Listen, he can handle the weight. He can actually fight 160. I mean, he's a really big kid, and he has the proper support. He has a great team behind him that's allowing him to be able to, pull his weight off and blow it back up within 24 hours and get inside of the ring with guys who, even if they don't cut weight, they're just not his size.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Rich. I did not expect the domination that he showed against Regis Prograis in December, that being on the zone. I did not expect that. I know he's talented, and then again, Regis Prograis was very talented as well. But I'm amazed at more and more at Haney's ability to outland an opponent in punches, and he did that in that fight by a wide margin, as well as his footwork, which I always felt for a fighter was of the ultra importance. And I want you to comment on that. And he knows what he's doing in there. You cannot make a mistake against him. And I don't know if Regis Prograis was ready for this.
I mean, listen, you as a fighter, from a fighter's perspective, I mean, if I sat back, I'm 43 years old. I haven't been in the ring for over 11, 12 years now. If I wanted to make a comeback, I would pick Haney's previous opponent. Why? He doesn't work a jab. He's looking for one punch. He has no footwork. He's just going to come straight forward and take everything you throw at him. It's the perfect fight to look like a superstar against. He would make my style look as if I'm greater than Hagler and Hearns put together. It was like I said, he has a great team behind him. And they picked the right fight.
He does. He does have a great team, which is so important in the sport. You, more than anyone, would know that. Regardless of anything, Rich, he's a 2-division champ now, wants to be 3. I don't think anybody's going to become an 8-division champ again like Manny Pacquiao was. But this kid's got that. He's young enough to do it. But how far can he go? 147? I still think that 140 or 147 is where he goes. Not going back to lightweight. I don't think so. He relinquished those titles in a fight that was unified. But I am just so much on his bandwagon right now. I wasn't as much after the Prograis fight. I was a year in 2023, Rich, where we saw this division at 140 really propel. And not only the 135 lightweights, but let's take a look at this young man. Had the mega fight of the year. It lived up, talked about, promoters delivered. Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia with Oscar De La Hoya had their business problems. Ryan Garcia, from all reports, and I've been able to confirm, is still not happy with Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya. Wants to get away from it. And we saw that after the Gervonta Davis fight, where Garcia did not look good at all. But still, Garcia has a future in the division. He's going to come back soon. He's talking about Teofimo Lopez with him. Forget about a rematch with Gervonta Davis. Teofimo might be in the cards, or maybe even a Shakur Stevenson who's a part of that mix. What do you think of Ryan Garcia? Does he come back after the defeat to Gervonta Davis, which did very well with pay-per-view, over 1 million buys from all the reports, and had a lot of hype and was the mega fight of the year in boxing?
I mean, I don't take too much away from Garcia for his loss to Gervonta Davis. I mean, this kid, we all, I mean, all of us knew that he wasn't on Gervonta, Davis level. Like, he wasn't there. He doesn't have that experience. He never been in the trenches like that. We all know that. But you have to give this kid the credit for even being willing to step inside the ring with Tank Davis. You know, Tank is one of those fighters where you don't know which fighter you're going to get, but either one you get is going to be a damn good boxer. You know, he's going to
Yeah,
be a
let's
damn
take a
good
look.
baller worker.
Let's take a look at Tank Davis again. Let's take a look at Javante, who's now converted to Muslim, and he has a new name, and we have to get used to it. What is his Muslim name, Richard?
His Muslim name is Abdul Waleed.
And no, there's no explanation why he turned Muslim. That's up to him. It's his discretion. He did it, and we're still going to call him Javante Davis till we get used to his new name. But he's been inactive since the Ryan Garcia fight. His name keeps coming up. There is discussion again in the division where maybe Teofimo Lopez, and they've been going at it, back and forth on social. Maybe Raleigh Romero, another one who's a part of this division. That's right. 140 is really stacked. This is the guy who's still not getting credit. And people, they don't say he's a top pound per pound guy. And maybe because he doesn't fight more than once a year right now.
I mean, it's not his fault he isn't fighting once a year. You see a lot of politics, a lot of, he got in trouble with the law. So they're going to do certain things like that. You got to understand, Devontae Davis is what you can consider a role model. Actually, he's actually always the underdog. No matter if he's the face of the sport right now, no matter if he's the champion at the division he's at right now, he's always going to be considered the underdog, and everybody's going to go against him because he's actually doing a lot of positive things. I mean, the young man just brought up a whole, block in his neighborhood to help out, a lot of the people that's unfortunate out there. He's doing good things, and they're going to keep young men like him pushed back. It's not his fault he's not fighting. As far as the Muslim, I believe I don't think he converted. I think he's always been that. He just changed his name. He just want to be known as something different.
Yeah, look, we could go back to the great Muhammad Ali. Ali, Cassius Clay. So, but I want to talk about his skills and what will be on the agenda for him in a division that is stacked. And he's one of them. That's why 140 in boxing is the prime division in the sport. There's no doubt about it. You talk about this guy, Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah.
Lopez, since his dismal fight last year, the year before with Sando Martin from Spain, an unheralded fighter, and Teofimo Lopez has rebounded, very comfortable at the weight 140, and many say that he could be the top guy in this division, Rich.
I mean, I think he's an exciting fighter because, like the public's going to consider him an exciting fighter, and they're going to see him in that light because he has punching power in both hands. He has a really good left hook. He has a dangerous right hand, if he catches you with it. But at the same time, he's also very daring and he takes risk, which makes him almost reckless at times.
You just said it, risk. You're right. The question I have, does he have it to overtake? As he always says, take over. He did it at 135. He took it over, that division. His takeover now at 140. Does he have it to do it at this weight?
I mean, yes. I mean, he has it to do it. It all depends on who they put in front of him. Do I see him beating a Tank Davis? No. Do I see him beating a Devin Haney? No. Do I see him, giving I wouldn't even want to see him fight a Shakur Stevenson because of the Shakur's, last performance. He didn't want to be there. He don't want to be there. He's going to move around as if he's won every round, and it's the 12th round, so he's just going to move. And people don't want to show up to see that. It's not going to be a big show. It's not going to be a pay-per-view event. But if we want to see Lopez in a pay-per-view event, he has to get in there with the Tank Davis. He has to get in there with the Devin Haney. He has to get
in Ryan Garcia.
The Ryan Garcia. And those are the three fights that I believe the public will pay to see.
Uh, again, Rich, 140, 135, and then we look at what happened in 2023, a fight that finally happened. Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr.
Oh,
And of course, Errol Spence did not look like Errol Spence back in April, but Terrence Crawford continues to be number one among many in the fight, in the media and fight fans, as your best pound per pound. And he showed that against Errol Spence, who hadn't been the same, let's face it, since his accidents and tragically almost killed him in the car crash a few years back.
yeah.
But I said that had no bearing in it. Terrence Bud Crawford just happens to be Mr. Technical, Mr. Puncher. He's got it all. And he's got more to come now because in the four belt area, this was the fight. They unified 147. But what's so happened so much in this sport, as you know, Rich, it's not unified no more because he's not the IBF or anything like that. The title he took from Errol Spence, and Crawford's looking to move up to 154 and go after the Charles and all those guys now. So you could unify as Terrence did, but it doesn't always stay that way. That's a big thing about the sport. When I talk to people, they love Terrence Crawford. They love what he did. But Rich, they unified the titles, and they're not unified no more because there's so many sanctioning bodies, so many routes these guys can go to make money.
Yeah, you're right about that. You know, it's too many sanctioning bodies. You know, there's no one way ticket out here. You know, it's no more about being a people's champion anymore. But I never spoke to Terrence Crawford. I don't know his reason of moving up. But if me speaking as a fighter, being that, you know, knowing what's inside of that contract clause, I will move up just because he don't really want to rematch Terrence Crawford because he don't want to rematch.
No, I don't want to see that.
No. He doesn't want to rematch him because you don't. After you abuse a person like that in the ring, there's no challenge. When we get in that ring, we want to challenge. Win, lose, or draw, we need a challenge. And it was
there'd be no challenge. Also, if he fought him at 154, to me, has no appeal. You're not going to make the money also that you did in that first mega fight. So it's not, to me, it shouldn't happen. I don't think it will.
It isn't worth it.
And if they are to do it again, to me, if it's going to have any luster again, it's a rematch at 147. And I don't think that's not what Terrence wants to do.
There should be no rematch. I mean, if I was Terrence and I was at the height of my career right now, almost, you know, knocking on retirement, but still have the abilities to move as if, you know, I'm just now stepping. I got 1 foot out the door of my prime and 1 foot still in. I would take on Boots in this. I would give the public.
We're talk about him. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I would give the public the fight that they're all begging for, and the reason why I would do that is because, you know, Errol Spence, you know, he gave Bud, right? You know, he gave it to him. He didn't go anywhere else. He said, no, I'm gonna stick to the script, and he went out there and he gave it to him. So if I was Bud, I'll put it on. I'll put it out with Ennis. I mean, when we put the rematch clause in there, that how you want it, because you the star. You know, this is the weight we're going to fight at, and we get it in.
Well, right now, no talk about where Terrence Crawford is headed in the new year. If that dominant win over Errol Spence to unify 147, we will find out soon. Though he says he's going to have an announcement sooner or later, and we're talking maybe within the next month. Let's see what happens. Again, no more PBC involvement here. But Terrence is one of the, if not the top free agent in the sport. He can do whatever he wants. Like this guy, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo had a good year again. It dominated Charlo. And Canelo, though, is still avoiding the guy we're going to show right now at 168, where he dominates, where he's a unified champ at 168. Canelo doesn't want to fight Bivol again at light heavyweight. And let's put up Scott, our great producer in the back, head of String Puck Media. We have a snapshot of Dmitry Bivol, the Russian living in the United States, who to me should be in the top three when you talk pound for pound. He beats everyone. Technical. He annihilated, to me, Canelo Alvarez. He won almost every round when they fought a year ago. But Canelo Alvarez is trying to avoid him, not wanting to fight him at 175. Or does want him at 175. He doesn't want to fight him at 168 because he knows he could lose the belts to him. But that's not going to happen anyway. They're not going to fight anytime soon. We're going to talk about why in a moment. What are your feelings on these two, Rich? Canelo Alvarez, the year he had, Dimitri Bivol, the year he had, and what do you think will happen in this year, 2024, for both of them?
I mean, Canelo, I don't see him going much farther than he has already went. I mean, we all know that Canelo, you know, he got a few slaps on the wrist, is what I call them. You know, he walked away with victories that he shouldn't have walked away with. And he campaigned, and again, he was one of the guys that was coming down in the weight and blowing all the way up, and you know, looking like a devastating puncher. And he's putting a lot of names out, you know, putting them down and getting a victory over them, TKO, knockout, however he did it. But he's been exposed too many times. You know, everybody know he can't. He's going to have problems with a person who's a mover, who has good defense, who has a good jab,
right?
Punches. Or could just
which brings up my point with Bivol. He had that problem, and he'll have that problem with avoiding the powerful punch and right of David Benitez, who's the mandatory supposedly, and they have to put that fight together. Benitez has been looking for this fight for 2 years now. Canelo won his fight. Benitez wins his fight. It's time now for Benitez and Canelo Alvarez in 2024.
Yep. But I mean, if it happens, that'll be something good for the sport. So it could get out of everyone's system, you know. But if it's going to happen, we don't know. You know, sometimes they play on these fights for too long. You know, they hype it up for too long, and the public don't even want to see it anymore. You know, it becomes, and when it does happen, it's just look like a sparring session.
Before we move on to the heavyweight division, and we'll stick here, 168 and below, because we got to talk about Boots Ennis, who's at 147, who's now a mandatory, who now has an interim title from Philadelphia. Gerard Boots Ennis had a great 2023. And Ennis may be in line now for title 147. Who's he going to get? There's a lot of talk about Boots Ennis in the picture there at 147. I mean, he's another one that has tremendous power and quick. I saw him his last fight in Atlantic City. I forgot. I got to look up. I'm getting old, Rich, and everyone knows that. Pardon my losing off the top of my head, but Ennis looked good. Who was it again?
I said that's part of boxing. What you explained right now.
Yeah, but I didn't take punches in the ring. You did.
You take the effects of it, watching us do it. Part of boxing.
Boots Ennis is on the finally going to get the deserved acclaim. Finally get the fight he deserves. The question is against who?
It's going to be hard for Boots. I'm being honest with you. It's going to really be hard for him. I mean, if Crawford does it, give this kid, you know, the shot, you know, to showcase his talent at that level, I don't really see anyone else getting in that ring with Boots. I just don't. You know, it's going to be tough. He's going to become, you know, it's going to be one of the fighters where it just seems like at his level, he's fighting tomato cans when he's not. He's going to he makes it look too easy. Well,
that's not going to happen no more, Rich, because he's right now in line for the next title in 147. We just don't know who. We don't know who yet. And with now Showtime pay-per-view, PBC, I don't know where the PBC is going to put him in. I don't know. But there's a lot of talk about where Boots Ennis will end up, but he's definitely staying at 147. A good year for prospects that continue to rise, including fight. If I move my head a little bit, you'll see him. He's in the background there at 154 from Puerto Rico. There he is. Xander Zayas, undefeated streak continues. Going to be fighting in New York at Madison Square Garden in mid-February on a top-ranked ESPN show. You got to like this young man. Handles himself well outside the ring and even better inside the ring. He is what I just said moments ago about Devin Haney. Footwork, speed, and tremendous power.
Yeah, I mean, he's at 154, but we got Ennis. Ennis isn't fighting at 154. So this young prospect that's coming up, he
is a top prospect in the sport. Is to me, 17-0 now, Rich. I don't think he's a prospect no more. It's time. Top Rank has been milking him and getting him ready for big fights, and I think that's coming soon. But he's one of the guys that look for, and you saw a lot more in the heavyweight division that we haven't seen. We just came off a super card in Saudi Arabia. Again, there you go. A lot of money. The heavyweights were on display. We saw Deontay Wilder. We'll talk about him in a moment. We saw Joseph Parker. We saw about that. And Anthony Joshua, who's in line for something now. All going to gun for either this guy, Tyson Fury's WBC title, assuming the unification bout. Tyson Fury is going into the new year still as a heavyweight champion, one part of it, but ready to unify the titles against Alexander Usyk from the Ukraine. And that can mean Saudi Arabia in February. Two mammoth heavyweights. We know what Fury can do. We also know what Usyk can do. He has most of the titles, but we're looking at another unification bout early in the new year in February, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good ideally it was a good heavyweight card, but once again, that's one of those fights where I think they took too long for it, and now we're never going to get it, and to watch Deontay Wilder go out, how he's going out right now, and to know we'll never see that matchup against him and Joshua Clottey. I mean, not Joshua Clottey, against Anthony Joshua is just it's a little upsetting. Because
I'd like to see, Rich, a unified heavyweight champion. For years, that was always the face of the sport, heavyweight division. We had the Klitschko's dominated. Now we got Fury dominating a bit, but now we got Alexander Usyk, who's made noise and's got the fight now where he could unify this title. How long it would be unified? Though somebody's going to win it unless it's a draw.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's not even a handful of heavyweights anymore. I mean, the sport was based on heavyweights, welterweight, and middleweights, made some noise. But now the heavyweight division, man, we've been struggling since it's kind of like HBO went out of business.
Yeah,
we haven't had any good heavyweights that came out there to give the sport that name. We haven't anymore. Right now, it's the lighter weight classes,
right,
and it's causing the sport to struggle.
They are the face of the sport. The lightweights, the 140 junior welters, the welter, and even at 154 and 168. And the heavyweight division has been dormant for years. But like I said, now we have a chance to give the heavyweight division some room to go back up in the elevator, as I say, up the ladder, because the unified title will come up if nothing goes wrong between now and then when they do fight in Saudi Arabia. To wrap this up, Rich, a great, I believe, again, 2023 in the sport, including in Japan. Naoya Inoki dominated Stephen Fulton, a fighter 122-pound debut. And then he defeated Marlon Taples on December 26th in Japan. You had to watch it in the States at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, which I didn't do. I watched a replay of it on ESPN. But that's a guy to look out for. And then you also had Subriel Mateus, undefeated, 31-year-old from Puerto Rico, 145. He's in the mix at 140 as well with all the others. And Jose Ramirez in 140, former champion. Also Jack Cantrell and Richard Hitchkins from New York. These guys all are part of that great division of 140. And don't forget the great T. Sue, the middleweight, junior middleweight. 3 fights this past year, and 154 pounds, someone to reckon with as well. And he wants to fight in America, not Australia, where he's from. So a great year, I believe, we saw in the sport. I bypassed a lot more due to the time, but we'll come back in the next half hour to wrap the show up. This week, our debut show with you, Rich, on Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. That's Richard Pierson. Stream Punk Entertainment presents Keep It in the Ring here, and we'll be going live too soon. Right now, we're just giving you our thoughts on the year past and what we expect to come forward in 2024. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be back. Don't forget, this is Keep It in the Ring. Get me on social media. Twitter, formerly X, now X, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Rich, where can they reach you on social media?
Right now,
I mean, you don't have it.
I don't have no social medias right now. You pulling me out the cave right now. You pulling me out.
Well, we're gonna have to get you one here on the show. You know that.
Yeah.
It's got to be a KO punch. You know.
I was in no social media, none of that. I stayed.
Sometimes I wonder why I'm on social media. It's good and it could be bad, but you got to interact with the fans.
They need to hear your voice. Yeah, that's why.
There you go.
Now you pulling me out.
We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. This is Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso, and that's Richard Pierson. Back in a moment, fans. Stay with us.
And always stoking the fire. Adrenaline is overloading. Hit the mat like a fighter. They never let up, never throwing, giving to their desires. No, they keep working on their focus.
Keep It in the Ring back for the last half hour here at Stream Punk Entertainment presents Rich Mancuso. And there's my colleague, Richard Pierson. Rich, we looked at 2023 in the first half hour here on Keep It in the Ring, and now I want to look at the year ahead. Got into a little bit of that in between the review of 2023, the best we could. We're going to look at this Australian fighter that had a good 2023 as well. I don't want to bypass Jai Optera, a 24-0 out of Australia who had a good year. But in a division that to me is omniscient, silent, the cruiserweights, and we also have to look at how, as much as I don't want to talk about it, Jake Paul, how he continues to make a lot of money, who's not, to me, a real fighter until he fights someone that's really legitimate, minus Tommy Morrison, what he did to him. And we got to look at the females in the sport that continue to make an impact and now look like they're getting their wish, which I think they should do, getting 3-minute rounds and fighting more than 5-6 rounds, which I think they deserve. They deserve that. They do have popularity, and they do draw. They're starting to draw. Amanda Serrano, the champion, though she did vacate her lightweight titles, is going to be fighting in Puerto Rico in San Juan the beginning of March on a Jake Paul card. And let's face it, Jake Paul, as much as I don't like his style or anything about him, has really propelled Amanda Serrano because she's on his fight shows that draw $1 million or less on pay-per-view. He makes money for her.
Yeah. I mean, you could give it up to Jake Paul when it comes to that part of it. You know, he's been helping the women's sports out a lot. You know, I mean, he's been carrying Shadeja Green, you know, and the other female fighters you're speaking upon. Like he's not, I wouldn't consider him a real fighter, but his showmanship, something that most fighters do not possess, he has it, you know, and it's not as if he's dragging a lot of YouTubers on his undercard. He's bringing real fighters underneath him.
Yeah.
And that's something we do, like me as a fighter and as a man who actually appreciates the sport. You got to, you know, take your hat off to him when it comes to that part of it.
Yeah, he definitely a great promoter. Whether he's the right advocate for the sport remains to be seen with his foul language, which I don't like from any fighter. And please, promoters, if you're listening and watching, and they're probably not, stop with the press conference theatrics. I am tired of the cursing, the vulgarity, the pushing and shoving. It's not needed. They don't need to hype fights like that, Rich. They don't need to do that. And in the end, they're only hugging in the end when it's all over in the ring and giving each other respect, which is nice to see. But we don't need all those theatrics. It's not good for the sport. You want to draw people in and not chase them away. And by doing that, and I hear this from friends of mine that don't want to watch the sport no more because of that. That's one of their major gripes about it. What are your feelings on that?
I mean, I never got into any of that when I was fighting. I mean, I always avoided that. I never got into any problems. I never talked, reckless, never talked to smack. That's probably one of the reasons why no promoters ever wanted to sign me, because I wasn't the one that was going to go be the hype guy. I always wanted to just handle my business in the ring.
It's not needed. And I have to say that some of the athletic commissioners won't tolerate. They'll find, we've seen that in New Jersey. The commissioner, Larry Hazard, will warn the fighters at weigh-in, save it till you get in the ring. If you do anything that's not wanted here now at weigh-in, you will be fined upwards of $25,000. And it works because you don't see that going on in Jersey with the limited amount of fights they have in the state there. New York, it continues to go on, Nevada, and now in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Eddie Hearn is laughing at the whole thing there at Matchroom. It's totally unnecessary. Not only that, Rich, someone can get hurt.
Yeah.
And there goes your fight.
Yeah, but you see, like, you got a guy like Eddie Hearn who feels like he's taking over the sport. So he's going to he's going to have the narrative to the sport,
Well, basically right now it looks like he's the guy in control. I don't think it's De La Hoya. Top Rank will always be there, and Bob Arum, the Hall of Fame promoter. But Eddie Hearn has got the zone. Oscar De La Hoya is not as busy like that on the zone, nor the other promoters. Right now, Matchroom's got a great stable of fighters, and Eddie Hearn has the zone with them for the support. And he delivered some great fights in the last 2 months of the year. He really did.
Yeah, Eddie Hearn he's doing something that the sport has been missing. I believe if Eddie Hearn had some of the fighters we've been speaking upon, we would see fights that we want to see. Like you said earlier, Bruce Ennis, he's a free agent. If he was with Eddie Hearn, I'm sure he'll be fighting somebody, that's going to challenge him. And that's what it is with the sport right now. There's too many promoters. There's too many belts. It's just, everyone is
alphabet soup, which I always write about. NewYorkSportsDay.com and Worldwide Boxing. Too much alphabet soup. That's what I call it. My late mentor, Bert Sugar, gave me that idea, and he used it all the time. So do I. I mean, that's another thing that hurts the sport. And hopefully in 2024 here now, the promoters will back down on that stuff that goes on at press conferences, and also try and get these titles assembled, which I never think will happen, Rich, because the sanctioning organizations, they all make money, and this is a topic we'll explore in the weeks ahead. They all are a part of money making. That's why you got them. And an average fight fan at times, even myself, that I feel I'm versed in the sport enough to know, you can't name who the champion is because there's so much alphabet soup out there.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why you have so many fighters that's, they only, once they get that belt and they defend it a couple of times, they throw the belts in the garbage, because fighters have realized if you can make your name either as big as the belt or bigger, is unnecessary to pay sanctioned body fees. And that's another thing that's going to cause the sport to start struggling.
That's right. It's not struggling now. The sport needs a boost without Showtime. And to get a boost, you have to do things a little differently despite all the money that's changing hands. And when I talk to fighters, a lot of them tell me, I'm not making a piece of that pie. So the promoters are. It's obvious what's going on. All right, Rich, 2024. Coming out of 2023, that heavyweight division again. Tyson Fury and Usyk in Saudi Arabia, the unified heavyweight title. But we saw the end of 23, and what's going to be the future for 2024 with Tyson Fury, who almost lost to a UFC fighter, and Usman, right? What was his name? The UFC fighter. He went down. Fury, you put him down.
Yeah.
They're better than expected. But we have two guys to look at in the heavyweight division, maybe 3. Joseph Parker, one of them. Not so much Joe Joyce. Deontay Wilder, a guy that you always liked, that I did, but he stunk up the joint on the day of reckoning and drew the less amount of punches landed by a fighter, at least in 2023, and maybe top one in history. What happened to Deontay Wilder?
Wait, before I comment on that, I gotta say I love how you always say I like a fighter that you like when they lose. I like how
Rich,
you
look.
So,
Don't let me fight you on this, okay? Deontay Wilder, 19 of 207 punches landed against Joseph Parker.
Yeah.
And Deontay Wilder hinted at this is it. He's done a lot in the sport. He's content what he did, and hinted at that might have been his last fight. Do you agree?
Yes. And I don't think that was his last fight. I think his last fight was when he went up against Tyson Fury. I think Deontay Wilder had a chance to become something great, but he thought he was bigger than the sport. He thought he was bigger than life. And he chose not to learn and perfect his craft. Now, when it comes to Tyson Fury, I think Tyson Fury's problem is he chooses to fight at the level of the opponent. So sometimes he dumbs himself down and he doesn't show his greatness. He knows he's a great fighter, and he gets in the ring at times and he fights at that person's level, and he causes the momentum to shift, and that's how he ends up on the canvas and then have to dig deep and fight harder.
And he blew his opportunity that he wanted. They were looking to do this fight. There goes the fight with Anthony Joshua that's been talked about for a long time. Joshua prevails, and he's in the heavyweight title mix, waiting the outcome now of Usyk and Fury. But Anthony Joshua made a strong comeback after being on the downslide a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that fight, that's not a fight that the public still wouldn't want to see, is, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Like, that's still, I mean, come on, that's two of the biggest fighters from overseas going at it. This has been a build-up. We don't want to see the Deontay Wilder versus either of them, but I would still like to see both of those guys fight. We saw Anthony Joshua. He took a bad loss, a very bad loss.
Rich, there's no market for it. There's no market for it. You could put money into a fight like that, but nobody's going to buy it now because Deontay Wilder just looked horrible. I mean, he did not. It wasn't Deontay Wilder that fought Tyson Fury 3 times in their trilogy. We all know that. And to me, he doesn't have that market no more to fight for a heavyweight title right now.
Yeah, no,
so maybe that's why he hinted at that's the end.
No, I'm saying Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua.
Oh, Fury Joshua, that might happen. But but pardon me, because I'm thinking Wilder again, because I do like Deontay. I do like Deontay. I really,
that's your boy.
No, it's not my boy. You're my boy. I shouldn't even say that. That's not the way to say it.
You'll call him an Uber and Lyft on a late night just so he can get home safe.
Deontay doesn't do that. When Deontay sees me, it's hi Rich, how are you? That's it. But the heavyweight division, something to look at early in the new year. And again, as we discussed in the past half hour, top divisions to look at in 2024 for sure. The hottest division again, 140, the junior welterweight, stacked with names and talent, and big mega fights could be made. 135, the lightweight, still a force. 147, not as much no more, but you still have Boots Ennis in that picture to make it big. Where does Terrence Crawford go? Errol Spence Jr. go? Still may be a part of that division. Again, though, the top division to me, 140, and every boxing person will tell you that's the division to watch, Richard.
That's where it's at right now. That division is hot.
You've got guys that just went up the totem pole fast and jumping ship, going from that lightweight division, as Teofimo did, to 140. And if you had to ask me at the end of the year, the two top fighters at a 140 might very well be again Gervonta Davis. I never doubt him. Okay, I don't like his style out of the ring, but I'm not going to fault him for what he does in the ring again. All right, and still to me, at the end of the year, fight fans will still be buzzing about Terrence Crawford, whether he be 147 or 154. I don't think the Canelo Alvarez extravaganza is over, but it's not as hot as it's been, unless he fights David Benavidez, and that's a priority fight that must be made this year, Rich.
Yeah, that fight, that should have been the first fight back. He doesn't want to fight that guy.
And Shakur Stevenson out of Newark, New Jersey, you know real well. Shakur Stevenson's in this mix at 140 as well, maybe 147, or does he stay at 135?
Depends. It depends on if the public want to see him fight. I mean, like I said, his last fight in his hometown, it was a tough fight to watch. You know, you can't. How you said, you don't like to see all the hype stuff. You don't like to see everyone doing what they're doing, building up to the fight. You don't like all of that. You don't like the talking to the smack. If you're gonna talk it, you got to put out. You got to fight the same way you talk. And nobody enjoyed that fight. A lot of people left. Some people falling asleep in the crowd. It's not a good thing. So
No.
he got to come back off of that.
And I remiss to
Before
say
you get
that in that top three mix at the end of the year, to me, still going to be Devin Haney at 140 or 147. I still think that Devin Haney will be good, stay at 140, unless he decides to do a catch weight. And I'd like to see more of the smaller promoters, as I say, that don't have the pay-per-view magnitude yet, get bigger. And you just observed one in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center, but for some reason you weren't very high about that show, were you?
No, the Brick City promotion. I mean, usually they do good shows. The bouts that I watched the other night, besides Dwight Fleming Jr., I wasn't impressed with many of the other fights. You know, besides, I mean, I could say it was equal competition. You know, but besides that, it wasn't something that you would get a pay-per-view for. You know, I believe like the young man, Dwight Fleming Jr., he should have been showcased on something on the undercard of like a Devin Haney pay-per-view fight. You know, even if he wasn't televised, that's something that crowd should be seeing. You know, that's the talent that we need right now. Talent like that. The other fighters that came out, I mean, they're fighters that's been around the block and again, and it was like a club show inside of, you know.
Yeah, they only in an arena that could fit 15, 17,000, they only drew 4,000. Yeah. And I believe a show like that, a promotion like that, should stay where it was at the Showboat in Atlantic City, where they would do capacity crowds, and they don't have to. I don't know. It is a test for Thomas LaManna, who's a great guy, knows the sport, but and is a title contender as well, but did not do well at the box office, especially during the height of the holiday season before New Year's and after Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm sure that didn't help as well.
I mean, Rich, even with the Thomas LaManna, the cornflake fight, I don't understand why that fight was stopped. You know, that's a fight that, you know, anyone could look at and question, why was this fight stopped? I mean, we saw people inside that ring, you know, going to war. It wasn't a war. It wasn't a devastating punch that land. It was like watching somebody get stopped by getting hit by a jab or something. So
right.
It was just a lot where it was like, did I really, you know, come to see this?
But you know, on the wasn't on the stream at that same show, and here's the beginning of it. The PBC fighter Vito Milanicki, also from New Jersey, the rising welterweight 147, was borrowed, and that's what they're going to be calling him, a borrowed fighter almost now. He's with PBC, and he opened up that card at the Prudential Center for Thomas LaManna. So that's the beginning of it. You can see a lot of those PBC fighters, not maybe the major mega names, but some of the others fighting on other shows that might even get broadcast. how much the Showtime PBC thing no more is going to hurt the business, going to hurt a lot of fighters, Rich?
Yeah, it is. But
Okay.
like I said, like that card was good and could have been better. There was one good heavyweight. What is it? His name started with a P. I can't pull it
I
out
have
my
to
head
look
right
it up
now.
because I didn't pay much
I believe,
attention to the
yeah, I
show.
believe he's fighting out of Lyndhurst, New Jersey right now. He had a really good stoppage. He used like a Klitschko style. I believe he was from like Iranian. He did well. Like him, the White Flemings Jr., like those guys, they gave me, it was a little spark.
Rich, before we wrap this up, one other fight I look forward to in the new year. It's going to happen. We talk about Dimitri Bivol, again, people know how much I like him, how much I think in his talent as the light heavyweight champion out of WBA. Title unification coming up with him in the new year. Hasn't been announced yet, but he's going to end up fighting Beterbiev, the fellow Russian, and this will be the fight that can determine who unifies the light heavyweight division finally. We haven't had that in a long time. Anthony Yardy is headed to in that division as well. But the fight that's going to happen, Berdavov was the highest knockout percentage in the sport. He's undefeated. And Bivol, who also can stop opponents fast because he's got that quick right. And again, he's got the great foot speed and he's a technician. Another good fight to look forward to in 2024. I look for the sport, Rich, to wrap this up, to be very, very exciting again in 2024 because sooner or later, more and more of these fights will be announced. They're in the process of being discussed, and we begin with Tyson Fury and Usyk in Saudi Arabia in mid-February. That being the part that's going to be on the Zone, by the way, and also ESPN as well. ESPN pay-per-view. So maybe less pay-per-view for the fight fans as well. Too many of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think every fight deserves a pay-per-view spot.
No,
every fight doesn't deserve that, and I think that's where again it's hurting the sport because a lot of people are not getting to witness, the talent that's inside the sport.
And look for the continuation of the Canelo Alvarez legacy. And hopefully, again, he fights David Benavidez. We started the new year with bad news in the sport, sad news. A longtime boxing executive. You might have known him. Rest in peace to Cameron Duncan. I knew him well. Cameron Duncan with Top Rank and other promoters. He helped along with representing 30 champions in his career. Passed away with a long battle from cancer. Rest in peace, my friend. Some of the noted fighters that he had under his wing, the former champion Kelly Palvik, and even Terrence Bud Crawford. That was one of his that he advised and managed over the years. And he is recently now Gerard Boots Ennis. So rest in peace, Cameron Duncan. Too young to go, 67 years of age. Great ambassador as well for the sport. And our condolences to those who knew him and, of course, to his immediate family. Well, Rich, that wraps up Keep It in the Ring, our first edition together, my friend. Hope you enjoyed it as we tried to fill in the fans' our thoughts on 2023 and maybe what we can see in 2024. Any final thoughts, my friend?
Just waiting to see what we're gonna get to do together this year. Wait to see these great fights that we hope we could get together and let the world see it.
Well, we're on tape delay this week, hopefully, and pretty sure. Watch the social media, me, X, formerly Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Also, I'm on Instagram, Mancuso786. And I will, and so will Stream Punk Media, our producers here, putting this all together for us. We'll let you know, YouTube and other social media platforms, including Instagram, how you can reach us every week. We should be back next week and possibly live. But it's good to be back. Happy New Year again to you, Rich, and to everyone involved and all my great fans and supporters out there. Thanks for your continued support. As I say every week, and all my fans all the time, in the world of boxing, pro wrestling, MMA now that I'm very involved with Danger Zone, MAC Promotions. I always say this, keep it in the ring. I might have to say also when I do MMA, Rich, keep it in the cage, which would be pretty weird for me to say, you know? Anyway, till next week, everyone. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Scott, behind the scenes. We'll get back at you next week. And as always, keep it in the ring. This is Rich Mancuso. That's Richard Pierson.